I'd like to call to order the Bucksport Town Council meeting for April 20th, 2017, 1950. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Joseph York.
Here.
Paul Radd.
Here.
David Key.
Here.
David Keane.
Here.
Peter Stewart.
Here.
Paul Galvin.
Here.
Robert Cormick.
Here.
First item on the agenda is to Finance Committee recommendations on Wilson Hall. Peter?
Yeah, we met, and our recommendation that we want to bring forward to the council at our next regularly scheduled meeting next Thursday is to have the town manager work up an RFP for replacement of the roof and the windows. So we will be bringing that forward.
Do we have to have a motion to pass that recommendation?
Sure.
Yeah.
Motion. Second.
Okay, been a motion and second to approve the recommendation of the Finance Committee to get an RFP for repairs to the roof and windows at Wilson Hall. Anything further from the public? From the council?
If the RFP, if it doesn't come back with an amount that's acceptable to us, do we decide then what if we're going to continue or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super.
All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. Okay, the next item is going to budget workshops. First one being the recreation budget.
This recreation budget is prepared in light of the the council's decision to go with the Y. As you go down through the line items, it shows the director's salary is 0. The reason for that is that will not be our employee. The senior citizens director is the director of the senior center, the 20-hour per week position that the council has funded that runs the senior center. That is that position with a 1.5% cost of living increase that is in this year's contract. The next line item, the $90,342, is under swimming pool payroll -Y contract, and there are two separate numbers identified for the cost of that contract. One being $27,456 for the pool operation and $62,886 for the remainder of programming that will be done, but that's all under that one line item, and that's the amount that will be paying the Y for those programs during the year. Facilities maintenance payroll is skating rink and swimming pool maintenance work not related to programming that is there, and there's we're still responsible for our facilities maintenance, and so those items are there. The part-time assistant, what's listed as a part-time assistant is Barb Ames, who's currently paid for 50% from the diversion program that she operates for the at-risk students, and 50% through recreation. And moving forward, after the end of this year, she will be 50% on diversion and 50% contracted through RSU 25 and/or some Y work. So she remains our employee, but will be a contracted repayment through RSU 25 primarily. There are lots of zeros next, and the reason there are is that those things have all been assimilated into the Y contract, and they're no longer being paid for by the town. Program supplies, however, the $7,087, That program supplies are everything from porta potty rentals to chemicals, etc., that are used at the pool, winterization of pumps. We provide the field marking powder and paint to the sports teams that utilize those fields. Those costs are in there. And then, as I said, pool supplies are in there as well.
But that's actually down $9,000 because
Yes,
of
it
the...
is, because of this changed thing. Well, part of it's that change, and part of it is when we took field maintenance away from it and moved that into
To the
RSU
schools.
25, then that reduced that cost as well. Building supplies are related to Jewett School, the skating rink building, and the concession stand. And the Jewett School used to be budgeted at a much higher rate, but the school takes care of virtually all of that. So that's very small. Equipment purchase is the same item that was left there from our prior budget. I'm not sure what that might be, but should it be necessary for something related to our facilities, would be have to have some funds in there to do it. Same is true for the maintenance and repair of equipment. Building maintenance and repair is, there is funds in there for electrical, carpentry, floor cleaning, concession stands, and some miscellaneous, but again, for the buildings that we have as part of our recreation program. Phone is the skating rink, the pool, the office. There is some money in there for cellular phone for a period of time after the beginning of that, for Tim to have that. He's going to be working with the Y in transition to make sure everything gets, and then that will get faded out as well, and next year that line item will go down. Heating fuel is the amount of propane for the skating rink. That's what that is. We don't pay heat at any other facility. The fuel for vehicles has been removed because that was related to the cost of vehicles used in maintaining grounds and facilities, costs for, and the gator and all the things down here on the waterfront, and those have been moved to the town dock account because it's now town dock / waterfront. Electricity is the skating rink and basketball court, the pool, the tennis court, the volleyball court, the Reggie Ginn Field, the storage place, and the concession stand. That's what the total electric costs are. The water cost, we spent a lot more on water last year than I estimate we're going to moving this, because we're hopefully not going to leak out as much as we did. We do have a camera that Tim is working with them to have the lines cameraed through the water district.
Can I say anything, Sue?
Yeah, there he is.
I talked to Dave, and Dave said you have to have a metal pipe for that camera to work. I guess the camera works on top. You don't think about that, Dave? Yeah, he said that. I thought you could put it right through the PVC pipe, but he said he couldn't. Unless you have something metal in there. I never asked. I thought you put the camera right through, just like they did the sewer treatment.
No, normally it's a little,
Yeah.
like a little tractor thing.
Yeah. They said it'd be metal. Anyways, I'll let you go further. Dave. Just
We'll have to find a way to have
Yeah,
those
yeah.
lines checked. That is part of that. And Maine Water has agreed to provide the first fill of the pool for free this year, which, if you don't ask, you can't know, and we asked and they said yes. So that is a help, certainly, in the cost of water. Rent is the
Well, on the
ahead.
watering of ball fields, I thought we didn't have any more ball fields that we'd be watering.
That's listed here under that. We're not paying the water on the ball field, but the swimming pool cost from last year was more than double what's listed there, which is why I left it. If you look in the expenditures for last year, for water at the pool, it was $7,500, and that was related to all the issues that we had with it. We reduced it this year, and to accommodate that, but watering the ball fields didn't occur this year either. They paid for that during this year as well, and it's still.
Do we pay for the water at the ice rink?
We'd have to pay that.
Yeah,
We
that's
had a
here.
fire truck come up this year and filled it one time too. But usually that's the water. Doing the ball fields and the ball fields and the ice rink and the swimming pool is where we get the water. But my understanding is that RSU is gonna take care of all the watering of the fields.
Right, I mean, I don't mind leaving the money there if we put it and split it up between swimming pool and skating rink and just,
I
if we're not
think
doing,
we-
if we're not doing ball fields, let's just,
No, we're not doing.
let's just not have it in there then. And
Okay, I'll take that out. Rent for the senior is the monthly payment for the Senior Citizen Center that you have an agreement with that organization at $862 a month. Youth athletic expenses,
What is that? We pay the senior citizen center for?
for what?
How does that work, the payment?
We pay a monthly rent to the owners of the apartment complex where the Senior Citizen Center is located,
Oh, okay, so, okay.
and that is $10,344 a year. It's $862 a month for the use of that space, which is where Sue Ann Craig, the Senior Center Director, works out of, and where the Bucksbrook Senior Citizens Group has their home as well. Youth athletic expense, I've left in here, and the reason for that is those are monies that the town has provided to organize athletic groups that are under other operation, I guess is the best, football and travel basketball, and those that if they've needed financial assistance, there has been monies there to help them out, and that's what the and I've left those in because that was not a part of our contract with the Y to have oversight of those or require that they fund those. So I've left that amount of money in the budget so that that can continue for those in the same way that it has in the past. And then the last one is youth activity expense, and those are all program costs that are now the responsibility of the Y.
In this budget, if for some reason some of these line items, we don't spend all the money that's appropriated for it, does that surplus come back to the town?
That's the town's, the only thing that the Y retains are revenues from programs. The Y does not get the budget money other than what's contracted, that 90,300, whatever that number is. They get that in monthly payments, but they don't get, the rest of this is the town's budget. They don't, but revenue from programs goes to them.
No, these things that the town's responsible for, will the town be paying invoices for those type of things? Are we
We'll
going-
pay the bills the way we've always paid the
Okay.
bills for those things, yes. Those, they won't be shifted to the Y and then us reimbursing. We'll be paying them directly.
Sue, could I just bring up an issue? know the Y will not be responsible for the youth sports, because I know they don't want to feel like they're infringing on the sports. But I always felt that they should, I attend all their meetings, and that's why I know, how much they need for monies, and if they're spending it where they should be, in other words, they're just asking for it. But I started off, they don't have to come in and run a program, but I don't know if, as time goes on, because I know the Y runs certain athletic programs down in Ellsworth. And I'm not sure eventually if someone decides they don't want to run the program anymore. Because I know when I first came here, at football and basketball and all those, because the people are tired of running them. But I don't know down the line, is the Y going to be, if no one seems to want to run it and they want to keep these programs going, and to see that the Y would overtake, take some of these programs? Or?
The Y has indicated that they would, whatever the town asks it to do, it would do. And they've also indicated that even though they're not running these programs, that their staff would be attending their meetings of these, the meetings of these groups, so that they're aware of what their needs are and what they're doing.
And one other thing that'll come up is they usually contact me to schedule any practice that any of these sports teams need, or any of the gyms. Because right now the Mars Lane gym is pretty much the recreation. We have a contract there with junior high, the middle school, the high school. That's completely RSU 25. We'll use it when they allow us to use it. They don't. There is a contract out, and I'm not sure whether the Y would be using
The Y, it's my understanding from talking to Mr. Boothby that the Y will continue, the rec Y will continue to schedule those fields and gym spaces as needed.
So I think that'd be very important that the recreation committee that we have takes a strong interest in.
And I think that the Y has indicated that they are hoping that committee also is an active committee, meeting frequently enough so that they can get good direction on where to move forward with.
One other question. Is the truck that I had, will they come down for Ronnie on the waterfront?
Yes.
Good.
And it's my understanding that Public Works is doing some work to it to spruce it up a bit so that it
On the back end.
has a new sticker and a bumper that's not falling off.
It's 2 years, we'll see what happens. So we'll get broke in 2 years, I don't think. So
Thank you, Susan.
if it does, then we'll be done.
Any other questions on recreation before we move to?
Nope, the next one being Marina.
All righty. The Marina, which that's terrible, but I can't make that one. This is a different kind of budget. When we talked about the waterfront some time ago, we talked about having a position that was full-time in the summer and part-time year-round in order to work on waterfront grants and the improvements to the harbor in general. And this budget, as put together, is a transition from Bill Chandler to a new model. And so it includes the Bill's normal stipend, and it includes an amount, 1,520 hours, 40 hours a week for 24 hours and 24 weeks, and 20 hours a week for 28 weeks in order to get to this number. And that person would take over for Bill in the operation of the Marina, but more than that, would also be working with the waterfront maintenance people, etc., to make sure that that site, and it's all under community and economic development in terms of department head responsibility. There is, in this budget, it's got one additional person, or two, one for 24 weeks, one for 25 weeks. One of our regular people, Doug Knobloch, has indicated he's not coming back this year. He'll come and help get going, but he's doing other things. Mr. Gray is staying with us. And at this point, the money's in this budget, but I'm not sure that I'm going to hire another person. If we have a full-time person and Bill and Mr. Gray, I'm not sure that we need to add another part-time person to this mix. Since this is an enterprise budget and it's entirely funded by the fees generated by the marina, I see no harm in leaving this in there if we find during the summer that for some reason it's so busy that we're having problems that we couldn't add that staff. Otherwise, the funds that are identified just remain in the enterprise budget as they're identified. The ad is in the enterprise this week for marina manager, and also an ad is in the paper this week for a person to work with Ron on the waterfront in maintenance. Both of those, we've had several responses to the maintenance one. We'll see on the marina manager one as well. Overtime, $500 is only if somebody in some week, generally one of the yard workers, were to have any kind of overtime, and that sometimes happens depending on when the town is having festivals or whatever. We ask them to work more hours than that. Training is training required for the employees who work on the docks, and as well as those who operate machinery, etc. But it's primarily the dock, and the other training item is harbor master training, which is now part of this whole thing as well. Employee benefits are self-explanatory: Social Security, workers' comp, and unemployment. There are no benefits associated with these positions because they're part-time. Office supplies are office supplies for the marina. Software support is the marina operates on a combination of Trio and QuickBooks, and this allows us to keep that software updated for both. Postage and shipping. And printing is any flyers or mailers that we may want to send out, I'm not sure, or post in terms of activities that will be going on down there. Advertising and marketing, again, to get our name out there. Even though right now we're pretty much full, we do want people to come, and there is room for transient boaters at the town dock and at the marina, and we want to encourage that to grow. Copying fees are through the use of the town office copier and are charged back against the marina. Cost of goods sold is ice, etc., that we buy that is then sold back to other people. And gasoline sales is just exactly what it says, which is gas that we sell to boaters. And that's our cost of acquiring, not their cost of buying. We sell it at a higher price than we get it for. Small equipment purchase. Last year we used some of this money to get new life jackets for those who worked on the docks, because they only had those old big puffy ones that were very unwieldy to try and work in, and now they have the newer ones that are the self-inflating when they are on the docks if they were to go in the water. We did have a highway guy go in the water last year for the not good ones. Year before last, actually. Now they have the improved ones too. So equipment rental is the crane and the ice freeze, and the crane is to put floats in with. Take them out. general repair and maintenance, building, et cetera, those are, that's that funds. And the building maintenance and repairs, cleaning supplies, repairs to floats, and stuff for the trash bags. The float repair line item, within that, isn't sufficient to do what's necessary to upgrade those floats. And we'll be applying for grant monies this year to hopefully begin a progression for the replacement of those floats before they get any older. Boat operation, the boat that is at the marina or the used there, the phone for the marina, the internet, the cost of having the internet wireless at the marina, credit card fees because we pay a percentage of those to get it. We get it back, but it's still an upfront cost. I have no idea why cash over insured is there. This budget was set up that way. Electricity cost is the cost of electricity for the marina property itself. Water is, again, the marina. There's no sewer charges. It's a town facility. Insurance is the marina's share of the cost of the town's various general liability, public official and buildings. Contracted services, we pay a submerged land lease to the state of Maine for the water, for the land over which the marina sits when it's there, and that's an annual fee. And then miscellaneous where mooring inspections or fuel tank permitting is listed at $2,100. There's no marina reserve budgeted into this budget. And the offsetting revenue budget, as you go down through, is comprised of gasoline sales, transient dockage, ice sales, slip fees, which are seasonal boaters, of
Yes,
which I might tell you I'm trying to be one.
Yeah, I might ask you about those fees. Has there been a comparison? I don't know, this often comes up with what Belfast charges Bangor, compared to our fees. I mean, I've heard all kinds of things like we charge $1 a foot for something, and Belfast charges $35 a foot, and I've heard everything in between that. Councilor Rabs, I'm sorry. We went through this discussion when the waterfront committee was meeting, and we had been provided with a number of communities and what they charge for fees, and the rates that are included as revenue in this are those that were set after a review of all of those. Is that
right? As soon as the season was over last year, they were basically booked out at the marina, so they wanted their rates up front. And I don't have it in front of me, but the number, it was a 6 to 9% increase over last summer was what we were going to do. But we did look at other marinas around. Bill got a hold of that information, and it all fed into establishing the new rates.
So, can you give me some comparison as to what the new rates, how that fits into, say, Belfast?
Off the top of my head, no, I don't. No, that was.
the comparison that was that we're not as high as, but we're for what we have for facilities and are able to offer. We're competitive. We're not giving away the farm, shall we say that? But we're
Well, that was really my concern.
It was, but it's not as high as.
So it's more in line, but still less.
It's more in line than it was prior to, and when we talked to Bill about it, that a ratcheting up rather than creating a cliff was the way that,
To keep the marina full, and the price that he was charging for fuel was really quite good. People came from quite a way to fuel up at our docks.
but the town was still benefiting substantially from the rates we were charging,
Yeah.
so.
What about the big boat that we, I know there was a discussion a lot about the amount we were charging to the cruise boat. And
That was adjusted upward, but this year we're not expecting them in because they've gone and built a bigger boat, ship,
okay.
wherever that falls in. That hole in the water out there that comes in is going to be bigger, if it ever had to come in, is bigger than the other one. So it's not expected unless safe harbor comes an issue.
But the rate went from $1.25 to $2, I believe, dollars a foot, plus the cost of at $2 a bag of trash to be charged as well.
You had, I think, $600 in there for mooring inspections in your budget. Does the town actually own any moorings?
Mooring inspection, fuel tank permitting is what is listed in there. I'm not sure that the town has any active moorings at this time.
Okay.
Doesn't mean you couldn't have one,
Right.
but I'm not sure if we permit a mooring and have to do an inspection, whether we have to hire someone to do that, and that's charged as part of a fee for getting a mooring.
Yeah.
So that may be some of that cost as well.
Okay.
I think those moorings are the ones that the marina actually ties to floats, have moorings.
Okay.
That could be,
Okay.
that could be,
Right.
Because we've got one that doesn't line up quite.
yeah.
Right.
There's several points that they attach to the bottom.
Okay.
So, that's the marina.
How about the part that, Michael, is the new director in charge of the whole waterfront? The whole Scamola?
And I spoke with the harbor master and the assistant harbor master about, I spoke to the harbor master, I'll say, about the organization of this, which is that all activities related to the waterfront will go through the marina office. That's where people go, that's where people call, that's the location. And so somebody wanting a mooring permit, somebody needing the harbor master will go through that. It will get, they will access the harbor master and it will get respond. It's a more coordinated effort. And even though we have separate people doing that, it's my hope, and after talking with everyone, that understands that the goal of this is a more coordinated waterfront, and that we don't have people coming here or calling somebody's house or doing that the marina is the command central for the operation of the waterfront, and I believe that that's the way we're going to. No, I know that's the way we're going to operate it this year, but everybody has indicated that they're on board with that.
Yeah, parts of this, we had an ad hoc group for the marina, and the harbor master, the assistant harbor master, the marina manager, all participated in that, and a lot of this is the results of that ad hoc group.
What is the, on the marina revenue, use of the enterprise funds of $20,653?
Okay, what that is right now you've got approximately $62,000 in enterprise funds that are you've made more than what you did. The offset to this budget to bring it to the bottom line uses $20,000 of those monies. Except if you don't spend all of the expense side, that number goes down. And there's
That's that worst-case scenario type.
Right,
thing
the
to spend that
21
money.
for
that's the
that
worst
extra
case
person.
scenario, but there is $9,000 in wages that are not anticipated to be needed anyway. As I said, I've left them there as an insurance policy so that it wouldn't be a shock to anybody if we had to bring somebody on board, but the likelihood that we have to actually use that reserve is pretty low.
Now, is that the total reserve that we have in that right now?
No, that we have 62,000
Okay.
in that enterprise. What's left over the past 3 years?
Now, is this person that is going to be 40 hours a week, so many weeks a year, and 20 hours a week, do they qualify for full benefits, or, okay?
No, they don't. That's the plan, and the ad hoc group, and the discussion was that while Bill has been doing things here when he's here from May to October, that he also is doing a good amount of stuff in the off season, in lining up boating groups to come here, in dealing with people who are looking to make seasonal or transient arrangements, in marketing this through his connections, that we would notice a significant change in what we're seeing if we didn't engage somebody to do that on an ongoing basis. And there's also a desire for a plan to move this waterfront forward, and that requires grant work and requires coordination of that kind of thing, which would be the responsibility of this waterfront manager that we're looking for. And the bonus is that if you're able to do that through the marina, you can do that as an enterprise account without doing it through taxation.
In the following year, you would anticipate that Billy wouldn't be there, right?
The anticipation is he will be here this year, but
Right.
the whole point of this year is a transition, a smooth transition to a year without him.
So in the following year, that 5,000
That
stipends for him
is
will
gone.
go away.
Yep.
Well, that's really a smart way to do it. That should enhance the possibility of it moving right along and going in the right direction, I would think.
Following our pattern of not doing cliff jumping, yes, transition.
Any questions? Town dock and waterfront is
Do you have a
open.
question?
Oh, you talking about the waterfront now?
Yeah.
Okay. You got my okay, you can do it.
Okay, what are we on next?
You're gonna be a heckler.
Town dock? Okay, Town Dock Waterfront Main Street is what this is called, and it's facility supplies are garbage bags, plantings, mulch, flags, supplies for the bathrooms, light bulb replacements, etc. That's the $2,200 under facility supplies. Repairs and maintenance are minor dock repairs, bench and table repairs, parking stripes, electrical, plumbing, and then the harbor master's boat. I will say that our economic development director has arranged with the school for new picnic tables are being constructed to the school that will be available to go on the waterfront and to replace the really not good ones that we have at the present time. So that's a big savings for us, and it's another way to involve the school and the activities of the community. Vehicle, fuel cost is boat, lawnmowers, trimmers, and the gator, and the truck that they're running around with. Electricity is the walkway lights and the dock lights. Water is the bathrooms, the town dock, and then plant watering. Miscellaneous is backflow preventer inspections, light timer inspections, and float repairs on the town dock, not the marina portion. And then there's a line item that's waterfront maintenance, which is the 2 people, one for 28 weeks and one for 24 weeks, that do all of the maintenance from Main Street down in terms of that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, this isn't hiring someone new, this is just taking it from someone else's
I
budget.
took it
and putting it
from
in the right budget,
recreation
right?
and put it in here.
Right.
This is,
Where it should have been.
in my opinion.
You tell me.
Okay.
And that's what
I know we've talked in the past, and it's a pet peeve of mine when I drive across the bridge and I see 3 different shades of lights out here on the walkway. What is our plan for fixing that? We're spending $2,000 on electricity, and I know that the stuff that they're putting in there is more efficient than what we're talking about. I know, what was our plan going forward to trying to replace these?
Peter, I thought we were going to replace all the light
Well,
bulbs.
that's why I'm asking, because I thought we were getting it done.
we got an estimate last year, I believe it was, to replace all of the, it was all of them, with LED lighting. It was, I think, $11,000, give or take. It's within that. So the Waterfront Reserve has in it 53,000.
55 is what?
Close. I'm
I was-
close. I
that's
know
what-
it's
that's
50
what
something. That should you choose to do so, that you could upgrade all of those to LED. The question is, these are not night sky lights. These have more lights going up than it does down. The complaints that we get from abutters about them are that they're generating more on their property than they are where they're supposed to be dedicated. So I'm not sure that just doing LED lights is going to...
I thought the lights that he showed us, though, were basically,
Dark
yeah, they were up and down lights and not,
Right, and one, you could actually, on one side, you could not fill it, I thought. You could not have it on one, or dark on one side.
I am almost 100% sure.
Well,
Cost of it, I think, to go with the fixture altogether.
it's a different fixture for the top of the...
Yes, they didn't qualify for any credits or anything,
That's correct, because it isn't a night sky.
because it isn't the next guy.
Because when we looked at it, we looked at whether through Efficiency Maine we would be eligible for rebates, but without changing the fixtures as well, you're not. Just changing the light portion to LED is not the same.
Well, that-
But it is a concern, and it's a concern for more than you, because others are. So what I'd be happy to do is look at what that cost is, bring it back to the council, and you
Please
can
do.
decide if you want to
Thank you.
move that
Should we
forward.
also look at, I read that article in the magazine last week or before about the towns that have gone with long-term strategic replacement plans for throughout the town, all the street lights with LEDs, and I know it's a long-term costly project, but should we get that going in some fashion, start looking at it, start putting together a plan?
The low-hanging fruit is to start with your buildings and do all of your, do LED that way, bring that down. Then streetlights are tremendously expensive to do entirely because we don't own them. The power company owns them, and they're not going to switch them because they're extremely expensive unless you kick in.
Well, I thought there was some law that changed.
You can, the town, if it chose to, could acquire these streetlights.
Okay.
No, there are communities that have done that have acquired their streetlights and then converted to LEDs.
I think Brewer owns theirs. We have to check those all the time.
Okay.
That's all I had on the marina.
Would you get some
Sorry.
kind of a grant for doing the building, swapping the buildings over to
Waterfront.
LED?
We
You
got
can-
off the
I
waterfront,
know
I
that,
think. So I wanted to say.
I have in the past done that, and I don't know if Efficiency Maine is still offering those same things, but we retrofitted the community center in Hamden, and the $28,000 project cost the town $6,000 because of the rebates that came back from that project. So that, it was a big deal at the time. I don't know that they're still offering that many incentives, and you
I
have
just
to
think it looks sharp.
use certain kinds of things to qualify for them. But let's see what the cost of the kind of fixtures that would qualify for those kind of rebates
Thank you.
would cost.
That's all I had on the waterfront. Mayor.
Next one being capital improvement plan.
Hmm?
Next one being capital improvement plan.
Tired. Soon to use it. You know the one we got at the high school for the football team? No. That makes, that
Okay,
one makes this
you
one.
have two sheets. One is the proposed budget, and the
Tired.
proposed budget just puts money aside in reserves. That's what that does, is it feeds these various reserves with certain amounts of money, and the proposal is $21,000 in fire equipment, $20,000 in public safety reserve, and that's the public safety building. I'm sorry, yeah, $150,000 in public and highway equipment, $25,000 in the ambulance reserve, $30,000 in police equipment reserve, $10,000 in the town garage reserve, $2,000 in the town office reserve, $5,000 in office equipment reserve, and $2,000 in dispatch, $2,500 in dispatch equipment reserve. The Chamber of Commerce building, $5,000. The Bucksport Performing Arts Center, $2,500. And the animal shelter, $2,500, for a total of $275,500, as compared to last year when we did $460,500 because we were playing catch up from a year when you didn't do any.
If I look at the highway budget on your next page down, where you've got everything listed alphabetically, which is very nice, thank you. You've got $238,331 in the highway balance as of March 31st.
Yeah.
Am I reading that right?
Yes.
And then we're adding 150, and we're looking at budgeting. My question is, this past year we had 200,000, but it doesn't show that we've spent anything. Are we planning on spending,
Okay.
or is our number going to be 438,000?
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out where.
This that we have here is proposed expenditures in 2018.
Right.
And this isn't the budget that shows you what you spent. This is your appropriation budget. This just means it goes out of appropriation into reserve and sits there.
Because I thought we spent some money on the
You
highway.
have.
Right. Okay.
And in 2016-17, you purchased a backhoe, and you purchased a
Dump truck.
well, you purchased a truck,
A
and you
truck.
purchased a loader,
Okay.
and you purchased the loader on a 5-year lease purchase, and you purchased the truck on a 3-year lease purchase. And so we appropriated $200,000, and thus far we've spent $17,420, and that's the first payment on the loader. We will also pay the first payment on the truck, which is $49,000. So the 2017-18 budget that looks ahead puts in $150,000. It pays the second payment of the 2017 truck. it pays the second payment of the loader. It pays the first payment of a 3-year sidewalk plow, the first payment of a 5-year backhoe, and the first payment of a 5-year truck.
Just so I get this right, when we make these, we're making one payment a year on these, it's...
One payment a year.
It's not a monthly payment like everybody else does, it's one payment?
We pay one payment.
Okay.
And what that does is, if you went out and bought a new truck, the price of that, our last truck was $140,000, and the price of the loader was $70,000. And all of your money, if you had done that, would have been gone immediately. And instead, we've done lease purchases that space these. We have very low interest rates and has spaced them out so that the $150,000 you appropriate allows you to have the loader and the backhoe and the sidewalk plow, which badly needs replacement, in a year that otherwise you wouldn't be able to. You could get one truck. And what this does, and this is the thing that shows where your money goes every year in order to, is this, by having that same appropriation, you're not doing this to your mill rate. If you budget $150,000 a year and can maintain this, your mill rate's not going to, you're not changing that. It's able to sustain that, and as one piece of equipment comes off, another one goes on.
And I'm just asking, and if I'm all wet with my question.
No,
why isn't this just under the regular highway department budget instead of in capital improvement for making these payments if it's a known thing every year?
because the appropriation to these reserves is for the purpose of equipment that's
Buying
got
stuff.
longer than
Okay.
a 5-year or whatever life.
Okay.
And all of these things
Okay.
fall into that category. And this year's the requests that you'll see this year are for a sidewalk plow, not another one of the kind that follows you down the street as an articulating one behind you, so you're never
Never know what you're doing.
you don't know what you're doing, but it's following you. And with a different model that is much more cost effective and is ahead of you, and also has the ability to be used in other seasons for things that, instead of just sitting all the Jay and Matt have done a huge amount of research on all of these items, but and if we can retain one of our current ones and get a new one and trade in the old one, we would be much better served. We spent a huge amount of downtime this past year of the articulating ones, which has the most vulnerable pieces of its machinery right in the very center where it turns.
And the last question, sorry, Rob. And the last question I've got is, looking at the bottom line, is that $1.5 million in capital improvement reserve isn't our regular rainy fund reserve count? This is capital. Is that high? And I'm asking because you're brand new here, and I didn't know if we should spend some of that down, because that's a big number.
What it allows you to do is never have to do this to your mill rate with your purchases, because this didn't get here in a minute. The town has been reserving for purchases over the long term, as far as I can see, forever. And you've created a system in which you're fortunate enough to be able to feed that with a reasonable amount of money and have the kind of equipment, et cetera, that's necessary to run it without doing this to a mill rate to get an ambulance or get a public works truck or do those kind of things. But it's healthy. Is it out of line? No, because what it does is save you in the long run from the up and down.
The shock factor of having to have $500,000 right now
like
to go buy something.
tomorrow. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
The lease, so we're paying one payment a year
on those leases, and that's getting us a lower rate. Obviously more money, but if you looked at a one payment lease, the entire lease, and whether or not the interest rates, and people do that with cars, that can afford it, you know, they'll do a one payment lease, and it gives them a much lower interest rate. And, you know, I don't know how much,
We got 1.7,
it's hard to do much better than that.
which
That's pretty good.
was is a very good, and for the loader, which is the truck is a purchase over 3 years. The loader is a lease purchase. If for some reason you decide you're not going to pay for it, they'll take it and we're done. There's no continued obligation to do that. I don't recommend it, but that's the other side of a lease. If something happens and you don't need it, or some catastrophe happens, but again, it's all about leveling the cost of these very expensive pieces of equipment that are required to maintain the infrastructure that you have.
I think the big thing too is if you went out and bought like a ladder truck or something like that, you would drain a lot of your account. It might take you several years to build that capital reserve up to be able to purchase something else. So if you lost, you know, your fire truck or something like that in the meantime, you'd have to go out and ask to raise money, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we're essentially making three payments to the leases, and you can't get much better than 1.6 or one payment for on a 3 year lease.
And that was a recommendation of the ad hoc committee that looked at town operations back a couple of years ago, was to look, when possible, at leasing or a more creative way of apportioning costs over time.
Now, was this part of our undesignated funds? No,
So
separate.
these are designated.
These are designated.
Right, yeah.
That's why this number is different than the 6 million undesignated that's sitting.
That doesn't have an identified purpose. These are all identified. You've appropriated them to
We're going to spend
certain.
this and that, and we are, so well.
Yeah, the estimated year-end balance is $1.5 million plus, but the
The
proposed
appropriations only
appropriation is
275. Absolutely, yeah.
yeah.
I just didn't know if that end number.
Just who's ever watching on TV, we're not spending $1.5 million.
Right, no,
on
yeah.
that.
Oh, my goodness, no.
Yeah.
That appropriation is down quite a bit from previous years.
We're
Oh,
actually
you
spending,
used to,
what,
you used to appropriate $800,000 or $900,000.
Well, and that's what I was asking. Is historically, is that number where we're at, and
Oh
is
my
this why
goodness.
we're
This number is now in proportion to your pocketbook.
and is this why we're now at 1.5, because we had these numbers, we were appropriating huge amounts.
You did, but you also spent. Bucksport built many things. You were a construction group. You built a waterfront, and you built roads, and you built a lot of things that cost a lot of money, and you appropriated reserves to do that. And with the change in the pocketbook, we've changed to a community that maintains the things that you've built over time. I mean, the town spent a huge amount of money creating these great things, but it costs money to maintain them if you want them to last. And that's our role is now in terms of that kind of maintenance. And if there's a project where you want to build something, we need to plan for it and save for it and move it forward that way. Or you need to take it to referendum and ask the taxpayers if it's that big, if they're interested in doing it. That's more the way most communities have had to live forever. But you have so many things that need maintenance, miles of trails and the waterfront and Main Street and the business park, and I can keep going on and on and on, but you've created many things over time that the town now owns and is responsible to take care of.
I have one question. The ambulance equipment, are we putting enough into that? I mean, there comes a point where that one, that ambulance that makes $500,000 a year needs to be replaced. And I don't know how long that span is.
Well, we talked about that today, that it may be next year. I had it 2 years out. He said next year.
That runs quite a bit.
It does. Again, one moves up, one moves down. That's how and the oldest one falls off the end. That's how
Right.
we've treated it thus far. Depending on that, that last year you hadn't done anything. We put 50,000 in it to bring it back up somewhat, and we put there's another $25,000 proposed for appropriation this year. If looking into next year, it appears that it's necessary to do that. It will likely be that we do the same thing with the ambulance we've done with Public Works, which is look at a 3-year.
Okay.
It's not necessary to
Just write a check.
just write a check, because you can
Well,
still have that and as Council
Use
Rath,
somebody else's money.
in order to do that.
So I just, yeah, I mean,
Yes, I'm aware of
saw
that,
that
and I
and, like-
talked to Chief Bowden today, as a matter of fact, about it. When I was a year different than he was, but that's my job.
Any other questions?
You have, as I said, these are some of the things that you'll be seeing come forward in terms of requests. The budget expenditures are estimates of what these things will cost at the time that it comes in. It's not an exact number because I don't know, other than highway, which I have, but the cruiser replacement, for example, is $28,000, but that I used a net figure because it has to be completely outfitted, and then you subtract the freight and value. So if it's 28 or it's 30, it's still a cruiser. So that is.
that's the low end.
28's the low end.
It's the high end. For
Anyway, so that these are the kind of items that are being discussed. What was the other one that we were looking at? We've got the gator, the antique gator that is like this much, almost too wide to go down the path. That's 16 or 17 years old. We will be replacing that with something that isn't a step on it and it goes kind of item. It's not terribly reliable at the moment. It's used all the time. And the other thing we're looking at, it would come out of under downtown improvements that you may see that's not on this list, because that will be in this year, not next year. And that is trash can cover. If you've noticed, our trash can, the place things our trash can go in are not in good shape. They've been used for a very long time, and they're.
That's okay. Things break and things wear out. You have to get new stuff.
Well, that is one of them, and I'm looking at a composite kind of instead of wood. We put flower pots on top of them, and the composites and the higher density plastics have 50-year lives. We're not going to, but so even if they're a bit more expensive, if you know that you have them for 10 to 15 years, it becomes a smaller annual expenditure, and we have something that looks nice that does the job and that we're not tinkering with all the time trying to put back together. So that will be something in this year that we do, because we'd like to have those in place prior to our
Summer season.
summer season.
Nice.
And I don't know, but even, and I just thought of this, but maybe even talking to the school, or, because they have a bunch that they use up around the fields and stuff like that. Maybe we can get a better deal if we buy them in bulk.
Tim, you got a question?
Is anything going to be done for this building out here? Is it going to be made larger or moved to different locations? Because when we talk about the gator and everything, can't put much in.
That was something that had just been turned down when I came here as the interim.
Well, the situation
Well,
was, is that at first we were gonna put it right here, make it, but they didn't wanna take any more parking space, so they went down there, and that wasn't gonna work out. But with the, medical center not needing as many parking spots, I think just where it is now, to just make the building larger, we should be all set.
Well, you're not gonna get any more in that building down
No,
there,
you're
I'll
not.
tell you.
That was something that was identified in the 15-16 budget. Was almost $50,000 identified, some for repairs to the chamber building and some to extend out where they put all the things. And when I came here, you had decided not to do that. There was a discussion about an addition to the outside of this building to not impact a parking space, to have a structure on the outside of this. It's a storage-related structure that may address some of those space needs too, but we're in the process of talking about what we may be able to do prior to next season in order to have adequate storage for it, because we down further is not a good location. Thinking we, no, I won't say that.
What's the current status of the ambulances, during the pickups, whatever the terminology is for it? We talked about that at one time. What's the current status of that, or is there a status of that?
There's not a status of that right now because we don't have staffing to do that right now. We're waiting to hear whether or not the town is granted the personnel through the grant that was applied for, and I'm not sure when we're supposed to know that.
By September 1st.
By September 1st. Because of that would allow more flexibility in what we're doing, to perhaps institute transfers as something that we do. Right now, the staffing situation is such that there's a huge amount of overtime created to just do what we're doing right now without doing anything else. I don't know where we'd get the bodies to do it unless we instituted a per diem system where we had people coming on to primarily do that kind of activity with the 3rd ambulance, or we got the personnel through the grant.
As I recall, one of the good sides of that was financial, and one of the bad sides was that it kept the ambulance out of this area, and we could have a situation where we didn't have much coverage here. Wasn't that part of the discussion? Yeah. Okay.
But we were thinking about using our 3rd ambulance for that, right?
That's correct.
How long is this, if we get this grant, is it a 2-year grant?
3.
Wow.
The money goes down each year.
Yeah.
Still 3 years.
Any other questions on the budgets tonight?
Yeah, I have one question. I meant to bring this up in review the other day too. On the trails, who will be responsible for this?
Public Works?
Public Works.
Well, I wouldn't have said that if Jay and I had not already had this conversation. Who was going to be responsible for the trail?
Sure we do.
Public Works. And I would, the fire chief, the police chief, our economic development director, Public Works, and his assistant are all here if you had any particular questions about any of these capital improvement type things that we're talking about for next year. For Public Works, there's one other item that I really wanted to put into this budget, but it puts it over where I want to go, and that's the edger that we're talking about that will allow us to go along the edges of all the roadway and bring all of the edge of the road up to the pavement, so that I don't remember, those are what, 40
It's probably 40 or less.
but that I may bring it up anyway, because we have miles and miles and miles of road that need to be done, and it's a much more efficient way than it is to haul and dump and push. So
I think that's one of those things you should probably bring up then.
Well, it's one of those things that people are
That's what we hear all the
are
time.
concerned about, absolutely. And we've done a lot of it to satisfy the post office in areas where, but by specific mailboxes, because people were having problems with mail delivery because of the downer road. We've done those kind of things, but the fact is that there are miles of road that need it brought up. So.
Have we got the walkway done yet?
The,
Well, there's still dirt down here. If that's
what's that?
Oh, you
still
mean,
dirt right
you mean
down
this
here, right?
telephone pole right here by the...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You mean the sidewalk. I
Sidewalk.
thought you meant the other
I
one.
was like, what the
Yeah,
hell?
right church, wrong pew, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think we've got all but one set of wires off that pole on Main Street, and I'm not sure whose those are, but Fairpoint took theirs off shortly after we discussed it last.
We're still waiting for CMP, right?
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like to make a motion to take up two items not on the agenda.
Second.
We have motion and second to take up two items not on the agenda. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Kathy?
These are just
Thanks, Sue.
two catering licenses for Verona Wine and Design. They already have their liquor license, and for catering, they just need the council's signature, and it's for catering at the Lighthouse. One event is this Saturday night. It's a public event. It's an open house from 5 to 8. And then another one is on May 1st, which is a private one. That's being put on by Casting Room, and I'm not sure what that is.
Did you say a casting room?
Casting Room. I don't know. But anyway, they already have their liquor license. It's just being able to cater for them. So I just need everyone's signature for that.
Okay.
You don't have to make a motion for
All
that.
we gotta do is pass one. Would like to bring up opportunity for any discussion items. Any discussion items from the public? Yes, sir.
This is on the YMCA. Use of- My understanding is the money that they generate, I know they have to pay the people here that'll be doing the work. Once they pay all the expenses, would all that money still go to the Y? Would they have a fund there that will build up maybe someday that they could build a building here, or do you have any idea how they would do that?
It's my understanding that the revenue stream derived from Bucksport for the Y is identified for recreation programming and use in Bucksport. That it's not commingled with the Ellsworth.
But they go beyond the expenses.
That's what I mean, is if they go beyond the expenses, there's funds there for creating additional programs or doing whatever. There's not a reserve set aside for an eventual building construction. I mean, that isn't it, but I asked about revenues derived from here, and they indicated they would go to the supportive programs here and the development of new programs here if there were more monies generated than what it costs them to operate. Now, certainly a percentage of what they raise goes to overhead, administrative overhead. That's a normal expense, but otherwise, those fees that are generated are used for programming here.
Any other discussion items from the public? From the council?
I just had a question on for the equipment for the public works, the truck, backhoe, sidewalk plow, is that during the lease, do you have to pay them in there, or do you have to sell those outright, or what do they do with the old equipment, I guess? Okay, so,
was to purchase or lease,
okay.
which would just come off the top price.
And and again, this is just for the cruiser replacement, is that gonna be another SUV?
That's what we're looking at, yeah.
Yeah. Will it be Interceptor or not sure?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
Again, there's an open house at the Lighthouse Art Gallery on the 22nd. It's open to the public. If you haven't been in that building, you ought to go in and take a look. They've done a wonderful job there. People that have been around town for a long time remember it as the old Pop Hills building. There's been several things in there in the past, but they've done a wonderful job in there and some really nice exhibits too. So if you're not doing anything Saturday night, stop in. Any other discussion items? If not, we'll go to adjournment.
Motion?
We have a motion and a second for adjournment. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.